everybody, welcome back to another morning word. Thanks for joining us this morning. For those new to this is where we share a couple minute video, really just sharing from my own personal Bible study. Why? Because I just wanted to see your life go from here to here. And look, God gave us this promise. It says, I come to give you life and life more abundantly. Now, how do we do that, God? How do we get that abundant life? Well, He gave us the blueprint. He says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And if we can think like God, there is nothing that we can't achieve. And there is nothing that is impossible for us, because there is nothing that is impossible for God. So we can go from the valleys and we can get to the mountaintops. I truly believe that. Now, before we continue, please get a pen, get a piece of paper, take notes. And if what I'm saying is true, if you believe in your gut what I'm saying is true, please take massive action and apply the to-dos of the day. Because without the action, this will just be empty words, and that really doesn't serve anybody, you or me. So let's really get into this. We're going to be reading from the book of Joshua, which is the sixth book of the Bible, and we're reading from chapter 17, verse 3 to 4, slightly longer, so bear with me. It reads, Now Zelophehad, son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Makir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons but only daughters, whose names were Mahlah, Noeh, Hoglah, Milkah, and Tirzah. I can't pronounce some of these things. They went to Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders and said, The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brothers. So Joshua gave them an inheritance along with the brothers of that land. Now, we're going to call this morning's word justice over tradition. Now, for chapters, if you're reading the previous chapters in the book of Joshua, you'll realize that they were talking about the allocation of land, and they were allocating to the different tribes of Israel. Now, tradition had it, okay, and that any inheritance was given to the sons and never the daughters. That was the tradition of the day. Now, the issue arose when allocation came to Zelophehad, who had no sons to inherit the land. So he had no sons, which means that they would have lost out on the inheritance because of tradition. Now, the great thing is Joshua, being a great leader, understood this principle over justice versus tradition. And he understood that it would have been unfair for the daughters not to have their inheritance just because of their sex. So he overwrote the tradition and said, what we're going to do is do what is fair, follow justice. Now, we have to understand that sometimes, okay, we can follow traditions and they're good, and traditions can be good, but only if they're fair and only if there is justice in them. So let me give you some scenarios. I remember tradition in church that you could never play hip hop music, because that was a tradition. But that wasn't fair, because maybe in our culture, hip hop was something that we grew up with. So obviously justice means the right thing. The fair thing is actually, why not allow it, as long as the hip hop was okay and didn't have abusive language and stuff. Let's have a look at the other thing. There was a tradition that black people and white people didn't come together. Okay, but that wasn't unfair, and there was no justice there, so we had to overwrite those rules. Okay, there was no women in the boardroom. That was a tradition for many years. Now we obviously smashed that tradition, and now we have women in the boardroom. Now, before, the tradition was, okay, only the top bosses made the decision. Well, we smashed that. Now employees make decisions. So you can see where traditions that had been there for years didn't always have justice. But when you look at it and say, is it fair? And it wasn't fair, you have to get rid of those traditions. So that leads us into the question of the morning. The question of the morning is this: is your traditions stopping you from applying justice? Is your traditions stopping you from applying justice? Here's the lesson of the day. Traditions can be really good if they're fair. If your tradition stands in the way of justice, you must rethink your tradition. Just because it's always been done doesn't mean that it's right. So here's the action of the day. The action of the day is this: tear up the tradition rulebook and pursue justice. Do what's right. So God bless you. Thank you for joining us for this morning's word. For those, as we always say, we hope God's gift to us is life. What we do with that life is our gift back to God. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get these videos Monday to Friday. But more importantly, please go and share it with one other person, because if we can change the mindset of one person, I truly believe that we can change the world. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. God bless you, and see you soon for another